Welcome back to the Focus to Win podcast. Today, it's Thanksgiving season, so I think it's only right we talk about gratitude today. I know we touched it in past episodes, but let's dive a little deeper here today. And Lee, why don't you talk about the journaling aspect that I know you touched on earlier this year, and what you've done and what you changed your routine with. So
yep, changed and unchanged.
Yeah, right.
So consistency, talk about. So journaling will. It's tough to have a bad day when you think about what you're grateful for, right?
Right.
Where, like a lot of times we get ourselves beat up or, just beat ourselves up naturally. But when you think of the things that you have in your life and you think of the people that you have in your life, it's amazing of how grateful you should be.
Right.
And when you start writing it down, amazing the impact of physically writing, not typing, because that makes a different impact. It cues into your brain and so forth. And I forgot what they say, like it's 80 times greater when you're physically writing something that ingrains into yourself and your mind and so forth. So when you're physically writing out those things that you are grateful for, and just think of like different phrases like, hey, I'm grateful that I still have my mom in my life. I'm grateful for a great wife. I'm grateful for my kids and that they're healthy and so forth. So when you start thinking of those things rather than the negatives, right? Because we lose people in our life too. I think over the years, I have really good friends. I have another friend that he just lost a grandson from leukemia. So it's like, rather than don't focus on the negatives. I don't understand death always, right? You don't understand why you lose somebody. I guess they're going to a greater purpose and so forth, but it's hard when you're here and you lose that person. So you can't focus there. You really need to focus on what's the positive, what's going on, how are you doing? Hey, I have my health, I have my life, I have family that I can depend on. I have the ability to move my body. Think of people that are in wheelchairs and stuff of that sort. So think of the things that you're grateful for, and then you tend to have a much better day.
Yeah, it's really impactful. I had a recent experience, believe it or not, with the kid I went to high school with. His father coached me in baseball. Coach Schwartz, you're out there praying for you guys. His son was in a boating accident, and right now he's paralyzed.
No.
And I think it's really impactful to see someone go through that and to overcome a lot of these mental struggles and even physical struggles that he's going through rehab. And I'm praying for him every single day. But this old saying is, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Mm-hmm. I think one of the worst things that we have in life is to have something and then have it taken away.
Sure.
So whether it be a millionaire having millions of dollars and have that stripped away from them, whether it be your vision and have that taken away, or just small things that we take for granted every single day, whether it be breathing and those type of stuff. So I do think it's impactful. And have you seen a change for you when you started to change a lot of the generalized journal practices to transferring over the gratitude and
sure.
your perspective on life? So tell me more about what changed there.
Your hardest part is 6 inches ear to ear, right? It's like always the mental end of things and mindset and where your life's at, and going through struggles with my son and stuff like that. It's like, all right, so you have these negative things, but if you focus on what you do have rather than like, hey, I don't have this right now.
Right.
All right, what do I have?
Right.
I have other grandkids. I have other kids that I'm going to have to focus on them for now.
Right.
Hey, I have my life. I have my health. I have, abundance of different things. But when you start writing it out, it's so much easier to see when you physically write it out and then go review it. Like review the weeks, review the months, review the years, rather than, hey, I don't have this. Oh my God. Because we think of so many times of what we don't have in our life.
Right.
And, I wish I had a different car. I wish I had a different house. I wish I had a different spouse sometimes, right? It's like, I'm not thinking that for myself, but I'm thinking of over the years, because we've talked to so many people that have been married, get divorced, and then they're not happy there either. So you actually have to become happy in who you are yourself. Because I was listening to a podcast, and the woman was talking about she would go for a walk with her husband. Well, she's not married yet, right? So her husband was what's in her mind that she would go for these walks with. And then she would write her a letter at New Year's to herself that she wouldn't open until next New Year's.
Wow.
And she just talked about that gratefulness of what does that look like? Who do I have to become? So we always think about that other person, but if we take 100% self-responsibility, amazing what that other person would look like when we turn into the person we should.
Right.
Like if you said you lost, as a millionaire and they lose everything, they don't lose who they become. They became a millionaire, hopefully not by winning the lottery, because that's easy to lose. But if they became that through hard work, if they could lose all the money, but then they start all over again, they usually become a millionaire again.
The identity, the identity is within.
Correct.
The internal creates the external.
Correct.
Right. And that's exactly what I feel the journaling is. Because like you said, if I'm writing it down and I'm physically seeing it, it's now not only ingrained from a neurological standpoint, me writing this thing down, seeing it, processing it, then going back
Reviewing
to
it.
it and then reviewing it, right? So it's almost, you're training your brain to think that it's somewhere where it really isn't sometimes. And that's like the vision, talking about, envisioning your future and where you want to accomplish.
Right.
The gratitude within says, I'm happy I have my, kids or my parents or my brothers and sisters. Because the reality is, if you didn't have that, I mean, I can't think of the amount of detrimental reaction that your body would have and loss, because you didn't really appreciate what you have in that moment.
Yeah. And we're going to go through seasons in our life too, right? We're going to go through great seasons. We're going to go through bad seasons. And we're going to go through different just chapters in general.
Yeah.
And I think of, like, if you're having a bad day, or now the holidays are coming and Thanksgiving's coming, go volunteer.
Yeah.
Volunteer at a food pantry or kitchen or anything like that, and give back. You can't have a bad day when you're doing something for something else, so for someone else. Because if you're doing those things to, like, make somebody else's life better, amazing how much more you get in your life from helping see the gratitude that they have, and they're so thankful.
Right.
You'll be thankful when you're done.
Right.
Because you're like, it was such an amazing experience to be able to do something or to give to people.
Right. Out of straight love, nothing in return.
Right.
Doing the things without an expectation of return is super important.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. We were talking about, like, relationships, and I was telling everybody before the podcast started, I read an article and it said that close to 50% of the divorces regretted divorcing. And I feel as if many people are conditioned, especially in today's world with social media, that the grass is always greener. I've always found that it's so funny to watch, like, in high school. I remember, like, all these couples will say, like, oh, we're going to get married, this and that, put it on social media, and then they're broke up 2 weeks later.
But think, like, if you have any neighbors that they're out there and they're, like, obsessed with their lawn, they fertilize it, they water it, they're doing all these extra chemicals or natural organic things, and all of a sudden they cut the lawn and they're trimming it and blowing it. It's like, looks freaking amazing.
Right.
That took a lot of work.
Right.
No different than a marriage.
That's a great point.
Because so many people want, like, oh, well, I'm here and it's kind of browning, I'm going to go to this green one. And then they go to the green one and they turn it brown. It's like, all right, you're not putting the efforts in. But you have to put the efforts in. Life's not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody out there living, I mean, you're still young and you see life's not easy, right?
No.
But when you go through a lot of seasons in life, you figure out, like, all right, I've got to find what I'm grateful for, or I can go put myself in a box because I'm going to be, like, so depressed if I watch just the news of what's happening in the world, right? But if you fill yourself up with good things of, hey, I'm putting positive vibrations out in the earth, I'm looking for things that I'm going to be helpful for, help other people. Amazing what you'll get back out of helping other people. Right. And I don't mean monetarily. You can donate time. You can donate different things. You can, take a little extra effort. Walk out of a grocery store once. You see somebody struggling with something, help them.
Right.
Amazing what that does.
Yeah, you're good. Again, fantastic example. I've always noticed that you've always done that. I don't think we've ever been in a setting where someone needed some sort of very small task help. You've always been there to say, hey, do you need help? Or those things. And I've gotten a lot better at that, whether it be an old lady crossing the street. And it's out of my way to park my car and go help her. But you do it anyway.
Yeah.
I always visualize it that the law of reciprocation always pays you back. When you give, you naturally get in return. Correct. But I don't do it for that intention. I do it.
If you do it for getting it, you're not going to
never receive it. And I've noticed
that.
that. As a little kid, I always say, well, my parents always said, well, if you do good things bad. And I was thinking, okay, well, if I'm really good in school all the time and do this, but it doesn't work that way.
Same thing with money. You chase money and you will repel it. When we hire agents, I always say, don't have commission breath. Because if you're out there trying to sell somebody something, they want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to, right? Mm-hmm. They want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to.
Correct.
But so many of them want to sell
People will
something.
pick up on that too.
Oh, 100%.
It's so easy.
You've got to, the law of reciprocation is if you're doing because you want to do and you're helping somebody else and you can make their life better by these small actions, amazing what comes out of it. All of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I just had something really good happen to me. Yeah, because you did something good for somebody else.
Right.
And the universe is going to treat you that way.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if anybody's super religious. I look at it from a spiritual perspective. You do things from a loving perspective, which is a gratitude. Mm-hmm. It's truly gratitude is kind of love intertwined together. Yeah. It's showing your love for not only myself, but for that other person. And even if it's a small task and they may not appreciate it, at least you know you had that perspective. I'm going to help this person.
Correct.
I don't expect to do it with whether it be monetary gain, social gain, because I feel like there's a lot of people that do it, post it on social media, blast for everybody to make themselves high and mighty, and it's just a false narrative for what the perspective is. So your perspective needs to come from a gratitude mindset.
Yeah. And you have to
that's
surround
where
yourself with other people that think the same way.
Yeah.
Like, we have our pie event coming up, and we do that because we want to give back to our clients. I mean, do they need a Thanksgiving pie? Probably not. They can go to the store and spend $10 to $20 and get a good pie.
Right.
Not a big deal. Our point is we want to get everybody together, have a great time together. Everybody participates in it. Like, we divide up, like, hey, who wants to help out? They want to help because they want to help, right? They want to get some, give back as well. So when you do and you all give and you come to this greater cause, amazing what can come out of it, because now they feel good from helping. You feel good from helping. Now the client feels good. They're there spending their time with you. That's giving too, right? Because time's one commodity we never get more of.
Yep. It is amazing to see all these people come together as one, as a community.
Yep.
And it's so funny because every time we have this event like this, you have people that you had no idea were friends reconnect.
Yep.
And that could really change someone's life. It may be the reason why someone gets a new job.
Yeah.
Maybe they just lost their job and that next person they met that evening offered them something because they knew they were struggling.
Positive energy and gratitude. Amazing what comes out of it.
And that's what I love about it, because it is that energy. It's that gratefulness. It's the giving, sharing all at once. And I don't think there's ever been a time when we had that event that someone left that without feeling really good about themselves. You know what I mean?
Every day, like the next morning when we all get together, we're like, that was so much fun. That was so good to get everybody together. And I had a client, he had lost his wife, and he had said, thank you guys for doing this. He's like, this is something I look forward to every year. He's like, I wish I would have bought my first, I wish I would have met you 30 years ago, right? He's like, I've bought and sold probably 10 houses and nobody's done this, but it's a point of, we're doing it because we want to get everybody together. We want to enjoy a holiday that's coming up. And some people don't have a lot of people in their life, right? I mean, everybody's got different structures of family and so forth, and maybe they've relocated and they don't have a lot of family here. It's like, hey, come be part of our family. Come have a good time together. And I'm grateful to have you guys in my life.
Right.
I'm grateful to see everybody that night. It's a lot of fun. It's great positive energy, right? Nobody's walking around moping or anything else, but everybody's like, they give back a great energy.
Absolutely. You don't walk in that event. I mean, it's, for those of you who don't know, it's hundreds of people that either from the lead Tessier perspective that we worked with, or family members, friends, just to bring a community together and to show them, like, not only are we thankful for you, but we're thankful that you're surrounded with us and who we are and what we represent. And I don't think you could possibly walk in there with low energy.
Right.
Like and we talked about this before, but energy is something you can't see, but it's only you could feel. And there's energy drainers in it and people that recharge you. That's a recharging moment. And I chase after things that charge me up.
100%.
And that's a good example of what that is.
Yeah. And then you're grateful for it. I mean, it gives you things to think about. It's like, I am so grateful to have these people in my life, right? Because it is who we surround ourselves with. And there's certain clients you're like, oh my God, I haven't seen them in 6 months or 3 months or whatever else. Or, hey, I know they just went through something major in their life. I'm glad they're here and they're having some enjoyment and they're breaking bread with us and they're getting to surround themselves with other positive, fun people. And that's what it's all about, because, Thanksgiving, you should be thankful, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't take a holiday to be thankful. You should live your life every day that you're thankful.
Right. So many people get focused on the seasonality of it. So when they hear Thanksgiving's approaching, I would say there's probably a large percentage of people that they don't even do anything to give. Like, it's just almost like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. They're focused on their dinner and making their food and what's in it for me. And I feel as a community, one thing that every individual should work on is finding, even if it's a one minuscule task that you wouldn't do any other time of the year. If you see someone struggling to pick up the grocery bags and it's those small
Say a couple
things,
kind words.
Go help them, right?
Yeah.
And the more you do that and don't expect anything in return, it's going to fill you up. It's going to make your life a lot better. Because like you said, you do it out of love. And when you give that energy, you receive it.
Kind words. Amazing what comes out of that, right?
Yeah.
My wife has a sign in the house, out of anything that you can be in this world, just be kind, right? And when you're kind, you tend to be thankful too.
Right.
So when you're kind to other people, they become very, I'll never forget, I was walking into the bank, and I don't usually go in the bank, but this woman was walking, and I just seen her walk. She was just out getting exercise walking, and I waved to her and I smiled, and she's like, thank you so much for, she's like, so many times I smile at somebody and they never smile back. And I'm like, no, I walk every morning and I'm waving, and it's like, it was just nice to see you. I was like,
Yeah.
you can see good energy from you. You're smiling. I'm like, why not?
Right.
Doesn't hurt.
Right.
And like, have a great day.
Right.
She's like, thanks so much.
Right. That's so important because you're leaving an impact.
Right.
You're leaving an impact on people. It's one of those special moments to have with somebody where you would have probably never thought they would have met you that day.
Yeah, and look eye to eye.
Yeah.
Not.
She thought she was going to go home that day, normal routine.
Yeah.
And she's like, there was a nice gentleman that really made my day. And the older people appreciate it more than the younger because,
Walk through the grocery store once.
Yeah.
Look how many people will look you in the eyes.
oh no.
Not a lot. And it's not to, like, you're not trying to intimidate anybody. It's like, hey, how are you today? Like, how's your
Well,
day
they're
going?
so caught up in what's next, right?
Yeah.
They're not where their feet are.
Yeah.
And that in itself's gratitude. It's like a moment like this, right? We're sitting in this room and we're having these conversations. The time I leave, every time we have a podcast, I kind of self-reflect. What did we talk about? What are some things that maybe I need to work on better?
But it's always all of us working on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just natural to say, oh, I'm going to go home and journal today.
Right.
That's not natural for most people. It becomes habit when you keep doing it. And that's why I was teasing. I was like, I was doing it for a while and then I got out of the habit. Now I'm getting back into the habit again. You have to create that habit, and generally it has to be about 60 days worth before it really gets ingrained that it becomes part of your process.
Right. Well, that leads to the final point that we mentioned is your past experiences. When you're so focused on all the externalities of life and not turning inward. When we turn inward and we look on past experiences of our life, like when we talk about childhood, maybe it was an impactful experience. Most people think of the bad things, whether it be I was bullied or maybe I went through a hard time with my parents growing up or death. So how, and you mentioned you talked to someone that kind of restructured how you look at your past.
Yeah, somebody that was doing personality profiles that we had hired for our team, just to like understanding people more. And he said, what you do in, like, so many people in their past, they focus on the negatives, versus if you really focus on the positives that were in your past, amazing how much brighter your future is, right? Because you're thinking of those great things. Now I'm like, all right, I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I had these things. Now, what can I do to make that better? What can I do to make my kids better? What can I do to make grandkids better? Any other, like, or coworkers or whatever it may be. When you start thinking that way, it's not like, oh, I had this negative thing and it's draining you down. You're thinking of those positive things, and when you think of that, that's so much more empowering, right?
And you got to go deep because there's your conscious mind and subconscious mind.
Correct.
And your subconscious mind kind of fuels action. We talk about habits. And we talk about muscle memory, and it naturally, like, you probably wake up and brush your teeth every morning because it's just a habit. You go to the gym now because it's a subconscious tick. Like, you wake up tired, but there's still that, like, if I don't do it, then I'm not fulfilled throughout the day.
Right.
My whole day's ruined
Right.
because subconsciously it's drilled in your mind. So turning inward, looking at these experiences, you're now getting into that subconscious thought process on, why do I feel a certain way? Why do I have PTSD when I walk in certain rooms? Why do I get nervous around certain people? So there's different aspects about this that you have to really turn inward and feel the gratitude. Maybe
Well,
it
that comes
wasn't
to course correction. And some people you don't need to be in your life, right? We've
Right.
talked about friends that you want, like, the 2-second friend, 2-minute friend, 20-minute friend, 2-day friend. What is that person? And if you feel in that negative energy, you just tend to be around them a lot less.
Right.
There's no sense in feeding into it and making your life worse.
Right.
Because then you're not grateful.
Right.
You're thinking of the negative stuff. It's like, oh, I don't want to think that way. Who do I need to surround myself that's positive, that's gonna build me up? And sometimes they're family members. Like, all right, we're coming up on Thanksgiving. You may have some of them around you, right? It's like, hey, you can pick your friends, you can't pick your family, right?
Right.
But if you're around them, maybe you sit at the other end of the table. Maybe you get it done dinner a little quicker.
I think that's a good.
Or you bring up positive things like, hey, when you keep handling their objections and turn it into, like, become a game. Hey, what can I do to take that and turn it into a positive, right?
Like, even like complimenting them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Uncle Jerry, your shirt looks great today.
Yeah, exactly.
And he may be all pissed off because whether the Ravens just lost the game
right.
But yeah, you're right. I wish that's one thing I want to do better at is taking the negative energy people, shifting into positive. I do look at it as a game. It's funny you bring that up.
Challenge, right?
It's a challenge for me socially because I love to have an everlasting impact on people in a positive way. It's not working every time. There's sometimes I get frustrated. It's like, he just doesn't get it, But I do want to do that more. I want to be a fill me up person. We always talk about the battery charger. How can you take someone whose battery's on negative and put that charger in them.
Sometimes you just got to sit off to the side. I'm like, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
Anything that's really bothering you?
Yeah.
Anything happened lately? Well, and then sometimes they unload. It's like, and then after they unload, they may feel better.
Yeah.
You may feel like you just have to make sure you're brushing it off and not taking their monkey and put it on your back, right? So it's, and sometimes you can be really helpful, and sometimes they just need to unload because they haven't been heard, right? They're just so focused on the negative, and then sometimes you got to be like, why are you so freaking negative?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that make you feel worse?
Yeah.
Have you ever done a gratitude journal? Oh, that's much crap.
I could probably
Oh,
guarantee 75% of the audience is going to go to a Thanksgiving, and there's always that family member that they're going to say that just drains you. And most of the time, the people that are drained or the drainers, it's because they're going through something, like you said.
Right.
And whether they decide to make the change, which I would guarantee 90% of people don't, that's up to them. But at least you given everything you got out of love and out of gratitude, saying, I don't have anything to get out of this. Matter of fact, I'm just losing whatever my good energy that I got going. But I want to give you a little some of what I have, like the love and the peace. That may be a difference. Who knows?
Well, think of like a rainy day versus a sunny day, right?
Yep.
You can tell the difference in your, like, you don't need to go outside a lot of cases. You can tell how you feel overall.
Right.
But if you choose to say, I'm having a sunny day, no matter what, you can choose that.
Yeah.
It's your decision. But some people just choose to have the rainy day all the time. And I'm like, I choose not to live my life that way. Do I have bad, crappy stuff happen to me? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'll have conversations with friends and they're really down. I'm like, you want to feel better? And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's get all yours out. And then they'll dump all their stuff. And I'm like, all right, you ready to feel better? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, here's mine. Yep. And I start going through and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, and then by the time we're done, I was like, do you feel better now? And they're like, yeah, I don't have nearly as much crap as you have. And I'm like, exactly.
Right.
I was like, you think everything's sunshine and rainbows. No, you choose, like, I'm choosing to live sunshine and rainbows. Right. I'm not going to live in the
But even though
gutter.
you're going through that, you're not comparing it to everybody else. You're just saying, my life is what it is.
Yeah.
I have my imperfections with whatever's going on. Yeah. But that's necessary. We all know going into this thing, it's not going to be a smooth sail. Whoever thought that? I mean, maybe little kids do.
Right?
But they always say comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to compare your downside to someone else's, that's such a subjective thing because the struggle is relative. You're going to feel bad when bad things happen, whether it be family.
You just choose not. I just choose not to sit in those moments and be like,
you're a solution.
Let me get it all. Let me give you some of it. Like here,
right.
And then you make you feel bad. I'm like, that's not doing any good. But when you give them a lot of bad, they're like, oh, my life's not so bad. I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
You're going to get over it.
Right.
And the more problems you have, you learn solutions faster. Right. And then you have to think of what you're grateful for. Because if you don't think of what you're grateful, you're going to be like negative Nelly. And then nobody wants to be around you.
Time is too valuable. And most people, when they're on, like, I can vouch from my experience, when I talk to people that are literally on their deathbed, they've all said that they wish they've loved more was a consistent one that I got. And then the second one is wish they enjoyed their time a little more. They weren't thinking about what's next. It's a good mentality to think about what's next, what's moving forward. Mm-hmm. And that's very good to have. But don't forget, you're never going to have this exact moment ever again.
Yeah.
We're on episode 9 of this podcast. We were 9 episodes in, right? That's the short time. Yeah. But we're never going to have another episode 9 at this time on this date ever again. Yeah. So every moment that you get with someone, make it the best. Even if it doesn't go out the best result. Yeah. At least I was here, I did what I could, and I'm living my life with action, with pursuit to be good, share the love with everybody else.
Yeah, don't have the regrets. I mean, that's the other thing. There's always a lot of regrets in that. Yeah. Like a lot of regrets in the cemetery, right? So it's a matter of, I think you have less of them if you think of what you're grateful for. Mm-hmm. Also, what you envision your life to be. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't take that time to think of what they really want to be. Just like, that woman was saying, she writes a letter to herself for New Year's every year. And she wouldn't remember till the following New Year. But if you're focused on these positive things, like, hey, this is what I want my life to look like. This is how I'm going to become. This is who I become in that process. Amazing how much better your life is, right?
Yeah. When McConaughey gave his speech, he said that I'm chasing the person 10 years for. I think I mentioned this, but you also got to talk to your younger self because there's that young kid inside of all of us that always looked for something, always was happy and joyous about the very small things in life. Yeah. If you look at a little kid run around and how adventurous and how curious he is, you got to have a little bit of that in your life. Yeah. And they don't care about how much money they have. They don't care about. it's not a thought in their mind. They just want to be loved. They want to, like, you know, show affection to, you know, whether it be parents or something like that. Have that side, but also have the side of the older, more wise version of yourself. That it's almost funny. We know what we're doing right or wrong all the time.
Money doesn't buy happiness either.
Right.
That's what you were saying about money. Like, you have to be careful because there's a lot of millionaires that are miserable.
Yeah.
So you have to figure that out of what, and when you start writing down what you're grateful for, you tend to be less miserable.
Yeah.
And also looking back, like, what did I achieve over these years? Like, you look at that younger self, it's like, all right, this is where I was at. This is where my life's become. Look at my kids. Like, did they turn out to be good kids? Or did, like, hey, grandkids and so forth. So it's like, as that transition of life, you tend to be much more grateful, but especially when you write it down and you can review it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, if you the younger Lee Tessier was, you know, 12 years old, 13 years old, and you were to talk to him, what would he say? I always look at that. I said, what is my middle school year old? I think he'd be pretty happy with myself. He wouldn't be the happiest. I've made mistakes, but he would definitely be someone that was happy about the result, especially if you're able to give him a little more wisdom.
Sure.
But simultaneously, there's that other side where it's like, what is the future, the best version that I want to become? You know, because they always say hell is to see what you could have been. Hell on earth is to see what you could have been. So if I could say what the best version of me looks like, that's going to push me to be better every single day, and intertwine that gratitude mindset.
Yeah.
So.
And I think taking time to think. So when you speak to somebody, like we were talking about crucial conversations before too, is like when you tend to think about what you're going to say, you have less remorse for things that you shouldn't have said, first of all. Yep. And then you end up having a better outcome that you become grateful for because you watch what you said.
Right.
Rather than just like responding to somebody. Sometimes, like, the faster you respond, usually the worse that it is, because there's not enough
pure
time
instinctual.
to think. Yeah, like slow it down. Like sports, when sports you get really good at a game, it tends to slow down.
Yep.
So you have to do that same thing mentally of like, all right, who do I want to become? How do I want to become? And then I need to process this, and so you'll get faster at processing it, but you still need to leave time to respond. So you're not remorseful, you become grateful instead.
Yes. No, that's a good point. And
especially around the holidays, you have a table full of people and all those things.
When you're pissed off at that, you know, Uncle Joe rambling on about sports or whatever's going on in his family life, and you're really close to just say, just shut. Right. Come from a very loving way. Like, instead of saying, oh, he's always miserable, say, you know, why is he miserable? Yeah. Is there something going on with him? You know, how can I give him the stuff that maybe I have internally, and maybe give them a little piece of it.
So for Thanksgiving dinner, just think when you're sitting across from that person that you know is like, oh my God, I got to listen to this crap today. Like, all right, what can you take and turn around to be a positive? Yep. Or what can you pull out of them that could make it a positive? And they don't even realize it, right? Yeah. And then you start getting them on a positive track, and you can make it a game. Yeah. Amazing, like how, like, the small challenges that you give yourself.
It's uncomfortable. It's super, when you're caught up in that moment and you're like, oh, here's this time. This is exactly what we were talking about. I'm making it a mission to do that.
Yeah, you'll have a much better Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You will, because it's like, all right, rather than like, oh, God, I got to listen to what he has to say. And you're just going through that in your head. It's like, all right, what can I take out of what he's saying to make it a positive?
I love that. Yeah. So we'll leave it on that. I think that's a fantastic finish. And I think, Lee, you said it the best. When you're sitting across the Thanksgiving table today, and I'm not saying this might happen to everybody, because there may be some perfect Thanksgiving tables. But I guarantee for most of us, that's not the case. Sit there and evaluate, you know, who are the negative ones out there. Don't avoid them. Don't, you know, disregard what they're going through. Talk to them. Come from a gratitude standpoint and give love. At the end of the day, if we can internally give something we have to someone else who's struggling, I think that would be very impactful. So
you'll end up getting so much more from giving with the point of wanting to give.
Yeah.
When you give, amazing the reciprocation that comes back. And it's hard. Like, there's no price tag to put on that. It changes everything, and you will be so thankful in the long run.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, share the show. I'm glad that we're growing this thing a little bit. I'm really excited for what we got going on with some guests coming up. So,
Sounds good.
See you guys. Happy Thanksgiving.